everyone, it's me, Flara, and I'm back with another installation in my Drawing Anatomy series. Hands. In this video, I'll be dumping all the little bits and tricks I've learned throughout the years in drawing hands, and hopefully actually get a bit better at them myself. There are two major parts of the hand: the palm and the digits. Tip number 1. The palm and the fingers are proportionally half and half. If you draw a line halfway between the top of the hand and the bottom of the hand, you get the first set of knuckles. This is typically seen easily from the back of the hand. If you turn it around to face your palm, you'll see the knuckles seem to be a bit higher. Well, they actually aren't, but the top of the palm has this diagonal slant. It just means that the knuckles are hidden under the flesh. It also means that the knuckles don't bend here, like you see in those wooden hand things that artists get sometimes. Because of that diagonal, the palm area is more fleshy when bent, looking like this. This is what that line on your palm is. Let's go back a bit and examine the palm. So, number one thing about the palm is that it's boxy. But, like everything in anatomy, it needs adjustments. We carve away the corners and round it out so we get this U-shaped slope. In fact, this C-shaped slope goes all throughout the fingers. Marco Bucci refers to this as the Wi-Fi principle, and it's a great simplification to keep in mind. Now, unless we're drawing all hands from the front all the time, we need to take this shape and 3Dify it. If you examine a skeleton hand from the side, you'll see it bends upwards a little bit. This helps fix one of the issues people have with the hands, in that they make it straight and stiff. Where'd you get this? Next, we cut that corner off at a diagonal, like you're cutting foam. One exercise I can recommend to you guys is to draw boxes in perspective, keep them thin and rectangular. I might do a perspective video later at some point, but until then, I can just recommend some videos from other artists that have made perspective easier for me to understand. After you've drawn all the boxes, add the slope. Alright, on to tip number 2, the fingers. Alright, in terms of fingers, I got a couple of tips for you guys. Biggest thing I picked up, the knuckles are not evenly spaced apart. I don't know, whenever I was learning about hands and fingers, I thought that you draw this rectangle and then split it evenly into thirds. But after taking a look at it myself, I realized that it's cut in half, then the upper section is cut in half. The second and third knuckles are closer together. Next tip. Consider them boxy. Boxy, but with movement. Think of like foam padding, so you don't make them stiff. With the boxy shape, you'll see clear top, sides, and bottom planes, which is why I recommend it. Next, keep in mind that the top of the finger has more bone, like the skin is closer to the bone, while the bottom of it has more padding. So when you bend it, the top will generally be straights, and the bottom, with the fleshier squish, will be curves. Another tip I learned, once again from Marco Bucci, is that if you look at the hand from the front like you're trying to poke your eyes, it also kind of bends inward in this C shape, making the middle knuckle the highest knuckle. So, when you start to turn the hand around, you'll notice the middle knuckle overlaps the other ones quickly. So you don't always see this straight row of knuckles like we typically make the mistake of drawing. Moving on to one of the biggest and most important fingers, the thumb. Fingers are hinge joints, meaning they can only bend like this. One thing I recommend to make sure you don't draw an extra joint is that when you fully bend all of your fingers, it'll make a square. Sometimes people will add an extra joint. I've done this myself. But remembering a box, it makes it easier for me to not make that mistake. And if you really can't remember, just pull out your hand as reference. But anyway, back to the thumb. So the fingers are hinge joints, but the thumb is different. The thumb is something called a saddle joint. This means that it has extra range of motion because of the way the joint is made up. It can move side to side, up and down, and all around in a circle. Also, keep in mind that there's a muscle right next to your thumb, along with the extra skin from that webbing. So when you bring your thumb to your hand, you'll see this little bulge. Keep in mind squash and stretch, and remember that webbing in between the thumb. Also, proportion tip. The tip of the finger goes in the middle of the first section of the index finger when you bring it together. The wrist isn't right in the middle of the hand, and it's kind of offset to the pinky side. On the thumb side, it hits the bone and makes this L shape before making a little swoop to the thumb fingernail. The part of the thumb that connects to the palm has this chicken drumstick look to it, so there's this volume here. It's one of 3 pads on the palm. The other pad of muscle/fat is on the pinky side. It's got a comma shape and stretches up to the top of the palm where the knuckles are. Also keep in mind that the padding on the pinky side and the thumb padding, they don't get pushed together. There's actually a square of tendon in between them. So it's not going to be looking like a hand butt, as Proko mentions. There's also a strip of fat across the knuckles, leaving this triangle shape in the middle of the hand. Alright, last bit. Now that we got to understand more about the palm and the fingers, I can't really leave this video without talking about how the hand connects to the wrist. First thing to keep in mind is that the ulna is actually not connected to the wrist. This allows for a greater range of motion on that side than compared to the thumb side when tilt your wrist sideways. Second thing is to have a little bit of gap in between the wrist and the hand, dropping the hand a little lower than the forearm, so there's this ramp here. Now that we've studied little bits of things here, I'm going to be doing hand studies from James Harren, artist and creator of Ultra Mega, along with Serif Karasu. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Things I notice about James Harren's hands is that he draws them chunky and oftentimes large, which is a stylistic choice since hands are generally only as big as your face, but it's a stylistic choice I thoroughly enjoy seeing. The knuckles are obvious as well. And another thing I've noticed is that he oftentimes will have a curve on the top of the finger if it's bent. Because one thing to keep in mind is that while the top of the fingers are straights and the bottoms are curves, a straight doesn't mean this. All that it needs to be a straight is that it's straighter than the curve. You can throw a bend in there, it's totally fine and even realistic for the fleshiness of hands. So there's another art principle for you. Straight just means straighter than the curve. Contrast is the key element here. Alright, now I'm studying Serif Karasu here. Again, sorry if I mispronounced. A big thing I noticed while studying these is that he might not even draw the third finger. Most of the time, you can get away with just drawing the first and second knuckle, because if you don't bend the third knuckle, then it kind of just looks like you only have two. But if you're ever drawing relaxed hands, that third knuckle will bend a little, so that will help you not look robotic. You can act as if there's only two sections of the finger, but just keep in mind that the third knuckle is there. This was a lot of fun. Hopefully my brain keeps this information. That's the thing with art. You can't just look at it. You have to actively practice again and again, something I don't really do too much. So with studying other artists and active studying too, if you just copy without much thought, you're not going to learn. So you have to ask questions. Why does the finger look like this? Why does the hand bend this way? Why is their hand drawing pleasing? Is it because of how the wrist is bent? How's the flow from the wrist to the fingers and the palm? Ask questions, investigate, and you'll learn a lot more from just copying. Anyway, hopefully this all makes sense. If you like what you saw here, I got more on my channel, so consider coming over and subscribing if you want to stay up to date on any new videos coming out. Right now, I'm doing an anatomy series, which is what this is a part of, and I'll be moving on to the torso muscles next. Until next time, I hope you all have a great day.